What's up, War Report family? It's your guy, Ike Jones, and we are here. Auburn is sitting right on the brink of a top 10 recruiting class in the first full season under Coach Hugh Freeze during the offseason. Can they pull it off? We'll talk about that and more on this week's edition of the Midweek Report. Everybody out there in War Report land in the Auburn fandom, we are here, Midweek Rapport, talking Auburn football. We're going to talk a little basketball too, but this week's the Midweek Report, as always, brought to you by show sponsor auburnsports.com. 'Tis the season to get in here and talk recruiting. auburnsports.com has all of the juicy details about what's going on with this recruiting class, so make sure you hit them up. Thanks to the crew over there. Our guy Caleb always coming through, giving us all the information we need about recruiting. So thanks to him. If you haven't already, man, go ahead and share the video so we can get more people from the Auburn family involved in the conversation. That like button feels lonely. Touch it a little bit. You like that. Yeah, you like that.
Bro, what?
Yeah. Go ahead and caress the like button a little bit for us here tonight and make sure it doesn't feel lonely for the remainder of the night. Subscribe to the channel since you're in the region. Go ahead and slide over to that subscribe button and give it a little love as well. But Mike G will tell you about some more things that you can do that will help us continue to do the work.
Yeah, go on and become a patron. We got lots of great things going on at the War Report. $5.99 a month will get you there. These are like little micro sponsorships. So if you like Fireside with the War Report, some of the live interviews we do, anything we do that's not part of our regular live cast, plus our regular live cast, becoming a patron will help us continue that content. You can also give the gift of the War Report by gifting a membership. Hit that gifted membership button and give the gift to the War Report. YouTube chooses these at random, so if you interact with our channel at a high level, but you haven't made the decision to become a member yet, you're most likely to be on the receiving end of one of these. So check that email. Our community has done a great job giving away memberships. We're giving away a mug today. Hashtag get your weight up. Put that in the comments. This is brought to you by GWT2 Energy Consulting Services and War Eagle Oil in conjunction with the War Report. They sponsor all of our giveaways. Hashtag get your weight up in the comments to get that mug. We're going to draw at the 1 hour mark. I want to shout out to the War Report Podcast Network, the Auburn Express Uptempo, College Loop, and Just a Sec, bringing you guys fire audio only content every single week. Please subscribe on whatever you listen to podcasts on and come check us out there. We appreciate everybody who listens to us on podcasts. Last but not least, this show is brought to you by MANSCAPED. Santa Baby, the season for a fresh cut is finally here with the sponsors of today's show. MANSCAPED, the leaders in below-the-waist grooming, have just launched their 5th-generation performance package to help you avoid another silent night in the bedroom this year. Take care of your special snowflake with the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra and watch your South Pole shine like never before. Get the best stocking stuffer of all by going to manscaped.com and using code RAPPORT for 20% off plus free shipping. Mrs. Claus will thank you dearly. Gotta take care of that South Pole, you know what I'm saying?
Indeed. Yeah, man, let's get straight to the conversation. First and foremost, Dustin, welcome in from the Uptempo podcast. Always good to have you in here.
Yes,
Maybe joined later by Dylan from over at the College Loop. So hopefully he'll get a chance to come in and talk a little something tonight as well. B. Will and Caesar have the night off. But guys, let's start the conversation with the I'm not going to say less exciting. There we go. Less exciting conversation. Let's talk basketball first and foremost. We haven't had a real chance. You guys were on live Sunday while the game was happening.
Yes.
Dustin, did you get a chance to watch that game? App State,
Yeah,
Auburn?
I watched it.
Wasn't anything too great. But Dustin, your thoughts on Auburn basketball through 7 games now in the season?
Yeah, sometimes you can just look at the box score and it'll tell you, right? And that's kind of, there were 2 stats that stood out Sunday. I don't have them right in front of me, but I think it was 2 for 25 from the 3-point line, and then whatever in the world we shot from the free throw line, right? So that's
the
just
ball
kind
game,
of,
honestly.
yeah, that like those 2 stats right there, those 2 things are where you lost the game. So, yeah, we guys like Denver Jones, you got to have him shoot better, right? Aiden's in a little bit of a shooting slump, nothing to freak out about, a true freshman. There are sometimes I think where I think we go away from Trey Donaldson when he's things are good, and then he goes out of the game and it goes a certain kind of way, right? I think that I think Aiden's super talented, but I just think that right now I think Trey should maybe be the guy that's kind of running the show while Aiden takes his lumps and comes along here. But overall, man, I think we're fine. This was a tough game. App State's a tough opponent.
Yeah.
And you're going to App State on a Sunday afternoon. Yeah, I figured it was going to be tough, and it was. So you got a big opportunity this week versus Indiana. If you bounce back and win this game, you're fine. But I would say tough non-conference game or tough non-conference. Yeah. Really tough, and we need to win some of these games. So I think this one Saturday is really important. Let's not start stacking L's.
Yeah, Dustin, 9 of 19 from the free throw line really stood out to me in a game that they lost by 5 points.
It's bad, man.
Honestly, like I said, those 2 stats right there, their 3-point percentage and their free throw percentage really were the game. Right?
Yeah.
Like you shoot 2 more threes, or you make your free throws, you win that freaking ball game, man.
Yeah.
Killed him on the glass. You killed him on the offensive glass. It's so hard to lose a game when you out rebound on that, by that much.
By like 16 rebounds. Yeah. By 16 rebounds. Look, shooting was the thing that Bruce Pearl had purported to like actually address this offseason. They brought in some seemingly good shooters. Shooting can be streaky. So sometimes you go through shooting slumps. Hopefully this team pushes through it. I think a lot of people got spoiled by that 2019 Final Four run where we saw probably the greatest shooting in Auburn history. That team was passing up wide open layups to shoot threes. They've been unable to find that level of shooting since consistently from their starting 5. So I look for them to bounce back from this. It is, I think people got to remember, this is also like a brand new squad playing together as well, too. That's not why they lost.
It showed at points on the offensive end. They seem to be going one-on-one a lot as opposed to playing within the offense. And it's a new offensive system for the most part, too. Like, even the guys who are coming back, they're not playing the same kind of stuff. They're running different sets. So they've got to figure out how to play within that system together a little bit better. Defensively, I think that they've done pretty decently. They're still too many straight line drives, right? We don't have the great shot blocker back there. Janai Broom's okay. He's not. I mean, Walker Kessler's another realm of human being when it comes to blocking shots. And Dylan Cardwell's good, but he stays in foul trouble a little bit too much. It's too many straight line drives. The defense is still good, though. The problem for us right now as Auburn basketball is on the offensive end. Too many possessions where it's guys standing around watching somebody dribble. It's guys taking early threes in the shot clock for whatever reason that aren't the best look. Even when we're not hitting them, they're still jacking up threes. Better shot selection. And just empty possessions, man. You got to get less empty possessions when you're going down there.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're not going to get too much into the Indiana game, but and I promise you guys, basketball content is coming. Lobtown is going to start. I'm going to start cranking out Lobtown stuff, so you guys stay on the lookout for that. But to Dustin's point, this Indiana game is kind of we've had 2 quad 1 teams that we've played so far this season. We lost both of those games, right? And those are kind of predictors of how deep into the tournament you can really get. Now, it's early in the season to start making predictions about how a team is going to fare in the tournament, but you need to kind of build some confidence against some of the better teams, because once you get into conference, you're going to be playing quad 1 teams every other game, right? And so you need to be able to show that you can close some of these games from a talent perspective. What are you guys' thoughts on where this team sits right now? Right, super early, projecting down the line about the team. I'll start with you, Mike.
Yeah. That's a hard question to answer for me right now. I think they've got all the talent, and it's you know, Bruce Pearl knows how to pull a team together. I think they'll be fine. I think this is still a tournament team, but you'll hear him talk about the importance of net ranking, and now missing opportunities at quad one wins early is definitely disappointing. So they're looking at a fairly tough SEC schedule this year. They just need to get it rolling before SEC play hits next month. So I still think this team projects well. Maybe not as well as we thought, but we'll see. I mean, you can be a whole new team come conference play. And this non-conference schedule is about pulling together who you are as a basketball team. So I expect them to find an identity. I think they did a good job bringing in some great guys to this team.
Dustin, what you feeling about the team right now?
One thing that I want to see Saturday is I think we're going to be in a close game again, and I want to see us execute in those final 4 minutes, right? Like, we just haven't been good really going back to last year in the last 3 to 4 minutes of a game. So I think it's going to be a close game. I think that the guys that were on the team last year, like KD, get the guys that are from Georgia, kind of have, because this game's in Atlanta. Memphis kind of pushed us around last year in Atlanta, so I think they kind of want to get back and have a better showing in Atlanta. As far as where the team is right now, Bruce, who was it that we beat? The game before App State, we won pretty handily. I forget who the opponent was off the top of my head.
Alabama A&M was the game before that.
Okay, so in the pros game, Bruce was still, and he's been this way after our wins all season.
Yeah.
He was kind of like tough on the guys, right? Yeah. And that tells me that he has high expectations.
100%.
I think that Bruce thinks this team has a high ceiling, and that's why he holds him. Because that game, I mean, when you're up, it was like 48-15 or something at halftime, I kind of knew that in the second half. I mean, that's just the way that goes, right? It's hard to come out.
Tech was the one right before.
Okay, well, whoever we throttled a couple of them there, and Bruce was still like, "Look, guys, I expect better." And I think that's a good indication of what he expects from the team. I think we're fine, but again, this is a tough non-conference schedule, and if you don't execute down the stretch Saturday and you get another loss here, then I'm going to kind of start to worry, because you got some tough ones coming up, and you need to win some of them. You can't be losing them. So but I like where we're at. I mean, we're okay.
Yeah, listen, for me, it really comes down to, can they figure out the offensive end? Because they're not going to be the same defensive. They could, crazy enough, last year, they could stand not shooting well because they were so good defensively. You were so, like, you could hold teams under 60 consistently last year. So when you only hit for 65, you win the ball game. This year, the team's not as good defensively, but you're supposed to be able to kind of balance that out with being able to go and score. And late game versus App State, the inability to hit free throws was big, right? Because Janai Broome was really the only person that was out there that looked dominant, right? He was the only guy that it clearly looked like he was playing for a Power 5 team, and the other players were not. Everybody else kind of seemed like they were on par talent-wise, which, Coach Pearl, if you listen to him in the pregame presser, he talked about App State has P5 talent. Like, they look like on paper, because of what conference they play in, that this is going to be a talent mismatch. They've got guys that could go play ball at any school around the country. Yep. They just happen to land at App State. And on paper, they're going to look like the team that they are, but when you go and see them in person and you measure them up, they're actually going to look more like a mid to bottom tier SEC school, right? So they're going to have to go out there and win the game. App State's not going to give it to them, and that's exactly what happened. Coach Pearl, listen, man, he's not out here blowing smoke about teams. He actually, when he says this team is ranked number 2 in their conference and they're going to be, a tournament type of team, he means it. He's not just saying that so people can, well, I don't know, guys, maybe, like, he's like, no, they're good. We got to go play basketball or we're going to lose this game. Right. And that's exactly what happened. But I think that, again, you have, a guy like, as you mentioned, Dustin, Aiden Holloway, who played like a freshman. Like, he played like a freshman in that game. He was a little lost on offense at times. He took some bad shots at times. He had some bad turnovers at times. And then you have a guy like Denver Jones, who he just hasn't found his sea legs yet. right? Like, he does not look like the FIU Denver Jones that was confident out there, would be able to get you a bucket whenever you get the ball in his hands. And then, you know, the 3-point shooting a bit, like, they were just bad 3-point shots, right? Like, you just got to take, if I'm not mad at the volume, I'm mad at the selection. So they got to work that out offensively, and I think they'll be okay defensively. But yeah, again, those two stat lines really tell the story of that entire game. And hopefully it's just a bad stretch right now, because it has been a couple of games in a row where 3-point shooting has looked abysmal.
Yeah.
So got to get that back on the right side of it, and we'll be all right. Let's go here to the comment section really quickly, see what you guys are buzzing about before we shift gears here. Hold on, before I do that, man, let me shout out the women's basketball team. Went to UAB and handled business on Sunday, though. I had the opportunity to travel to that game. Of course, it's not very far. It's in Birmingham. It's right down the road. But handle business, man. Let's just say this, man. You guys need to start supporting the women's basketball team. I think that they've got a legitimate shot to make the NCAA tournament this year. They got a legitimate shot to do it. If you're in town in Auburn, around the area, it's not an expensive ticket, man. Go cheer on the ladies and give them some kind of home court advantage, especially when we get into this SEC play, man. If you got the chance, go and do that. So shouts out to them. Hopefully they will continue to turn some heads there. And women's basketball is actually pretty exciting this year. I don't know if any of y'all are into women's basketball. Some really good storylines going on in women's basketball. Some really tough teams out there. But go support the women's basketball team if you have a chance to.
Auburn basketball swept the ACC in the ACC challenge, baby. Swept them.
Yep.
Yeah.
Vatek and who did the women play? They played Clemson.
Yeah.
Both got the and handily beat both of them. They beat the brakes off of Clemson. I did not expect them to beat Clemson that badly. I think, hey, you got a shot to go in here. They had a little bit of a revenge factor because Clemson's the team that put them out of the NITs last year. All of that. They dismantled Clemson in that game. Auburn basketball beat the brakes off of Vatek. So congrats to them for being a part of the 7-7 split between the SEC, ACC in the first ever ACC SEC challenge. Next year, we got to make sure we handle that SEC.
Yeah, honestly, Scott Grayson, man, is
a baller. She
balling.
Bro,
yeah,
she can just flat out hoop, bro. Like she can hoop, man.
She can. It's over.
If you don't know anything about that young lady, get familiar. I think she's got a history in front of her. She's got a career in front of her being a basketball something. So she's going to figure it out. All right, over to the comment section, then we'll shift gears here a little bit and talk a little bit of football. Super chat here from TJ Lou says, we're flipping KJ Bolden like hotcakes at IHOP. We will definitely get into the conversation about young KJ Bolden. That is a very popular topic around the Auburn sphere of whatever, whether I don't know where you're talking Auburn sports. If you haven't heard somebody talking about KJ Bolden, then I don't know what you're looking at. But yeah, we'll definitely get into that conversation. P-Pass says App State is equal to New Mexico State for the basketball team. I disagree with this. I don't think that. I get it that they're not a Power 5 team, but I think App State is actually, especially like basketball is just different, man. Like those mid-major teams are not pushover teams, man. Like I think people sometimes get caught up in the conference and not the team itself. That App State team is actually pretty good. Like if you watch that team, App State's got some ballers on that squad. So I don't know. And listen, New Mexico State's actually probably not as bad as the name on the jersey says either. If we're being honest, like they got some, but where I will agree with the comparison is App State literally did everything right in order to get that win. And Auburn did pretty much all the stuff you couldn't do to make sure that you lost that game.
Yeah.
Like you didn't get like an A effort from Auburn as far as their ability to hit shots and an A effort from App State, and they just beat you because they're more talented. Same thing with the New Mexico State. So if that's the comparison you're making with the New Mexico State game, Auburn didn't go out there and put their best foot forward. And I don't think it was they took this team lightly. They just didn't shoot the ball well. But the Auburn football team definitely didn't put an A effort out there versus New Mexico State, and then they ended up losing the game. That's what happens when if you think you're going to hand in C work against a person that's giving you A effort on the opposite end, you end up losing a lot of those games unless the talent disparity is just so great, and it wasn't that. in that situation. So Stuart Donald jumps in and says, I think Hugh Freeze could have won a whole lot of games with the talent that Texas A&M has had the last few years. I also think he's about to prove it. Let's actually start the conversation right there, right? Auburn is on the precipice, depending upon which recruiting service that you look at. If you look at Rivals right now, they're actually ranked number 10, so solid at number 10. But most other services have Auburn just out of the top 10 at number 11. So Auburn has the opportunity right now to be a top 10 class in the first full offseason under Coach Hugh Freeze. And the reason why I said I want to start the conversation right there with what Stuart Donald just said is, does this change the expectation and the timetable / pressure that you're going to see for this staff to get wins next year? Are Auburn fans going to be okay with slow progress if we land a top 6 recruiting class in this offseason? I will start that with you, Mike G.
Yeah, look, I don't know if they will, but they should be. They should be patient.
Right. Okay, should be.
They should
Are
be
they
patient.
going?
Right,
knowing
right. Because
you've been an Auburn fan for how long, Mike G? How long have you been a fan of Auburn Sports?
I've been an Auburn analyst here for about 3 years. I'll tell you this, right? Like the idea here is,
in your analyst of 3 years lifetime.
Yeah, look.
How likely, put it on a percent, how likely is it that Auburn fans will be okay with slow building of progress if this class lands within the top 6?
I think likely, because Hugh Freeze is not going to let you forget it this offseason. Just like he did this past season. Patience. You know, we got to build, we got to recruit. I don't really think that message changes after year one. I think it remains the same.
I think his message will remain the same. Yes, he's expecting like a 3-year grace period. His first 2 years is grace in his mind.
We've been hearing it for a year. So the second year, it sets in a little bit that, look, this doesn't instantly make you better than the teams that have been recruiting better than you. Listen, Q, I'll help you champion this message every lot, right? You are not going to be instantly better than the teams that have been recruiting better than you for the last 3 or 4 years. We never know how good a recruiting class is until about 2 or 3 years into that class. Now, the portal has changed the math a little bit, guys. So if you take advantage of the portal, you can find some 1-year stopgaps. And I think going into last year, a lot of people thought, they were so excited about the portal additions, they thought that those 1-year stopgaps were better than what they were. Look, man, they weren't. The core of this team that got this team to 6 wins were the guys that were already here.
True. The fact that a lot of people still, for whatever reason, gloss over, like a lot of what allowed you to even be in contention for most of these games were not
the guys they brought in.
People that people thought were going to come in during the offseason and magically, change the trajectory of this team.
I'll add that I think that the additions along the offensive line definitely helped solidify. Offensive line play was not a huge issue this year.
No. Yeah, right. If you were ranking issues, offensive line wouldn't.
It was not at the top of the list. And if you talk about things Auburn fans love to complain about, is offensive line, right? Yeah, our quarterback can't breathe unless the offensive line is top notch. So the idea here is go out, fill the gaps on offensive line again, because losing Gunnar Britton is going to be tough, man. He played really good this year, I thought, at times, and they really came along as the season went along, but. They should be patient, and I think that they will be patient, because that will be the consistent messaging that is passed down all through the spring. Hugh Freeze is going to be really real with you about where he feels like they're at. I asked him in one press conference straight up, did you guys have a good week of practice? He said, no, Wednesday and Thursday sucked. We didn't look good. This was after New Mexico State.
Yeah.
You and I know from talking to Coach Johnny Harris how having a bad practice before game day can translate. Same thing. She told us before the game, Mike, we had a good practice today. They went out and they looked like crap in the first half of that game. Now, they ended up winning it, but ultimately we can expect honesty from Hugh Freeze about where the team's at. Look, if he feels some excitement, he'll still try to temper expectations, but he'll tell you if he feels good about the progress.
Yeah.
So, look, once we get through spring, it'll tell you a lot about where this team projects. Cam Coleman's going to be an early enrollee. Walker White's going to be an early enrollee. Perry Thompson is not. Not all these kids are going to be here during the spring. So you got to give them time to catch up to the speed and the physicality of the game. Now, if you're asking me if I'm taking bets, I think Cam Coleman plays from day one.
Yes.
I think he plays from day one. I'm not so sure about the other three, though. And they're trying to do some work in the portal to make sure that they don't have to throw those guys to the wolves. Now, why does Cam Coleman play day one? Well, he fits the Hugh Freeze prototypical. This guy, Hugh Freeze says it out loud all the time. Range, catch radius. That's what he loves in an SEC receiver, and Cam Coleman is that. Now, this young man is playing right now in the state championship. Central just got an interception. They got the ball back. And Thompson is like their arch nemesis. I expect him to make some kind of game-changing play today. Him and Dylan Upshaw, who's a junior, who we've also offered, by the way.
He's a beast.
Remember
just
that
in
name,
case
Dylan
people
Upshaw.
don't know, Central Phoenix City and Thompson are right now playing in the 6A state championship for Alabama.
7A,
or
right?
5. Is it
7?
5A?
It's 7A.
7A, excuse me, state championship for the state of Alabama. Cam Coleman, Auburn commit, is playing in that game. Caleb Harris, Auburn commit, playing in that game on opposing teams.
Yes.
So either way, some Auburn commit is going to have bragging rights day one here on campus about who won the state championship, which is going to be interesting.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. But just to wrap up, look, I think that there is a larger portion of the fan base that will be patient in year 2. Now, here's the thing. If you want to make – because the schedule is tougher next year. No doubt about it. The schedule next year is tougher than the one. They don't have a stretch like they had last year.
Yeah, unless some teams look very different than what their trajectory says, then yes, we're going to have no 3-game stretch where you're playing the bottom dwellers of the conference.
No, it should have been a 4-game winning streak, right? Mississippi State, Arkansas, Vanderbilt, New Mexico State. That should have been 4 straight wins. They don't have a stretch like that next year. You don't play LSU, but given that their defense still sucks and they are losing Jaden Daniels, maybe we do wish that Auburn had them on the schedule because you pick up Oklahoma. Now they
lost Dylan Gabriel, so
but I think they're going to be better shape than LSU. Like they come to Jordan-Hare, that will be exciting. You got to get it together, man. If you want to win, I personally think it's going to be another season where Auburn is fighting for a bowl game. And right now, that's my feeling right now. After the spring, once I hear how Hugh Freeze feels about his team, I've learned to trust what he's saying. I mean, there was a lot of, he's just downplaying it because he doesn't know, man. He was telling us exactly what he thought. So until he says something different, I'm going with this is probably a 6 or 7 win team. There's going to be a surprising win. There's going to be a disappointing loss. And he needs to get to year 3, and he needs to find his quarterback of the future. Guys, I can't stress enough. We talk a lot about quarterback, but you are not winning in this league without dynamic quarterback play unless you put an all-world team around that guy.
Yeah.
There are very few examples of that in today's modern-day college football. I think Hugh Freeze is trying to do that. He's trying to give him some cushion in terms of finding himself a quarterback. Michael, we'll recruit every 5-star receiver that ever was. And try to get him into this program so that my quarterback can have some
be a human.
Yeah,
he doesn't have to be superhuman to win football games.
Maybe he thinks that's the easier route. Listen, I'm all about it. Get there how you get there. But ultimately, I think the patience will be there. The patience will be there because Hugh Freeze will not let you forget. He's going to set reasonable expectations based on what they reasonably do in practice. And then even then maybe undersell it just a tiny bit to make sure that he's not setting his kids up for the criticism that will eventually be coming their way regardless. But, I know people hate when we bring them up, but I think part of the reason why Bo received so much criticism while he was here was because of how Gus sold him. That kid's going to win championships. He sold him like he was going to be the savior of Auburn football. And so the first 2 years when he didn't live up to that, I think it sucked. Instead of saying, hey, listen, I know he did well in the first time, but give him some time, life comes at you fast. I think he could have helped him a lot. Hugh Freeze is not making that mistake with his roster.
Yeah,
he's selling reasonable expectations. So even for these kids that are coming in that are highly heralded, I bet you that he tempers his language a lot with these guys and making sure that they have the room to make mistakes without the entirety of the Auburn fan base coming down on them and ruining their mentality. Now, they got to be tough. You want to play at this level, you got to be able to take public criticism. That's just part of it, right? Yeah. With high expectations comes a lot of accountability from coaches, from fans, from everybody. Yeah. And it sucks. You guys remember in 2003 when Ben Obomanu dropped that pass versus Ole Miss when Eli Manning came here and beat us?
I don't recall what. I don't.
Look, man. They booed him at church the next day. It was a big story on campus. They were like, "Yo, Ben went to church and got booed," and I was like, "Man, we are dumb." They booed this man at church. What? Yeah, but that's in credit to Ben, man. He took that thing in stride.
Yeah, he did.
He did. He took it in stride. And so, those guys obviously went undefeated the next year, but you need that tough mentality because I'm telling you, now, when the expectations are high, so are the voices around you. They're loud. High expectations come with loud voices. So Hugh Freeze is trying to bring the expectations down so that the voices are not so loud around his program and they can focus on the task at hand. I think the fans get it. And if they don't get it, listen, I'm beating it home every week. Right.
All right. We'll see. All right. I'm going to get your answer to this question, Dustin, on the other side of our break. We got to take a quick break and let you guys hear from our sponsors. You are listening to the Midweek Rapport, brought to you by AuburnSports.com.
This edition of the War Report is brought to you by our generous sponsors. AuburnSports.com. For news and notes on all things Auburn Sports, head over to AuburnSports.com. When you work out, grill out, and chill out, you deserve the best life possible, and Golden's Cast Iron is here to provide the tools to help you do it. Check them out at goldenscastiron.com. And our giveaway sponsor, War Eagle Oil. For all of your motor oil and related products, head over to wareagleoil.com.
Hey, if you are not a patron, become a patron. This is a great thing to do for your life. We have a great time at the War Report. You can have a great time, too, by becoming a patron. Guys, if you want to support the content that we're doing here at the War Report, this is a great way to do it. $5.99 a month will get you there. Also, want to give a shout out to the War Report Podcast Network, the Auburn Express, the Uptempo Podcast, the College Loop in just a sec. Guys, listen to us on podcasts, subscribe, download. We got some podcast-only content that we're putting out. So if you like the live show, that's great. But if you're on the way to work and you want some extra content, go and subscribe to the Auburn Express, powered by the War Report, as well as these other podcasts that are part of our network. As always, we're giving away a mug. Hashtag Get Your Weight Up in the comments. Hashtag Get Your Weight Up. We're going to draw in about 27 minutes. So you got to be here to win. You don't want to miss that. This is brought to you by War Eagle Oil in conjunction with GWT2 Energy Consulting Services, sponsoring every single giveaway. Hashtag Get Your Weight Up. Make sure you get your spelling up there. I want to give a special shout out to show sponsor Manscaped. Santa Baby, the season for a fresh cut is finally here with the sponsors of today's show. Manscaped, the leaders in below the waist grooming, have just launched their 5th generation performance package to help you avoid another silent night in the bedroom this year. Take care of your special snowflake with the Lawnmower 5.0 and watch your South Pole. I almost said Soul Pole. South Pole shine like never before. Get the best stocking stuffer of all by going to manscaped.com and using code report for 27% off plus free shipping. Mrs. Claus will thank you. We appreciate Manscaped for being great sponsors of the War Report.
Yeah, absolutely appreciate us. Joining us now is our guy, Dylan Lark, from over there at the College Loop. Appreciate Dylan for jumping in here. Dustin, I said when we come back from the break, I was going to give you an opportunity to answer the question. Coach Hugh Freeze and company on the brink of being top 10, depending upon what recruiting service you're looking at. If you're looking at Rivals, they already are in the top 10, but brink of top 10. If they get into the top 7 or below, and really top 5 is really where, a lot of people think we may land at this point in time. Is he going to continue to have patience? And what does patience look like if you think that's going to be a thing?
This is an SEC fan base, so no, people will probably look at it. The second we lose, they're going to use it as a point of reference, right? They're going to say, well, you brought in these guys. These are your guys. We heard all about talent gap. Well, now you brought in the talent. in reality, it takes
That's a good
time.
point. That's a good point. But continue.
Yeah. So, but in reality, 1 or 2 classes is not enough to compete with the Georgias and the Alabamas because 1, you don't have the top end talent, but 2, you don't have the depth. You don't have the layered depth, right? Like you need to have a healthy number at every class. Senior,
You need to
junior,
have more than
sophomore,
one
freshman.
quarterback to be able to play, or otherwise you get FSU'd.
Yeah. We don't have well, I'm not even going to get on that whole thing. We don't have a nice balance of classes. Like we're heavy with freshmen and seniors. We need to fill out with the juniors and the sophomore. That's another thing. That's another indication of the poor recruiting that's gone on at Auburn for a long time. So just getting this roster back to a healthy standpoint is going to take another cycle or two. You can stop gap with guys from Group of 5 schools and fill in places, and some of them will step up. The Gunnar Brittons will come in and step up and do a good job, but then the others might not. The Shane Hooks, the Jair Shorters. So it's the portal's kind of hit or miss. You're going to, and then you bring in a top 5 class, okay, and they're freshmen. DeAndre Carter is going to be a stud, but how many true freshmen step in on the offensive line in the SEC and contribute right away? DeMarcus Riddick, going to be a stud, but can he step in as a true freshman right away and contribute every down linebacker in the SEC? It's a tough ask, right? So, and will it raise the expectations? For sure. But like Mike said, the fan base needs to understand you're going to be playing. Like, I kind of look forward to it, really. If we're playing a whole bunch of sophomores and freshmen next year, it might be a 7-5, 6-6 type season.
Yeah.
But I think that would bode well for the future, and it would kind of excite me. So, and look at the guys that did step in: the Keldrick Falks, the Connor Lews, the Kayan Lees, Jeremiah Cobb. A little bit we got to see him. You've got some pieces there already, but for like depth purposes, I mean, we really have to the offensive line to compete where we need to compete, offensive line and defensive line as well. And then Hugh, like, he got an unlucky draw in the fact that Mississippi, Georgia, and Alabama are like super thin this year at offensive defensive line coming out of the high school ranks, and that rarely happens. Now look at the 25 class. Almost all of our commitments outside of a tight end and a safety are in the trenches. They're line of scrimmage players. So it gets back to normal in that 25-26 class. And you can already see how we're attacking that, the very heavy, the trenches in those classes. But it's going to take time. I mean, you talk about Florida State. That second year wasn't all that for Mike Norvell either. You cannot ignore recruiting in the offensive line for 5 years and the defensive line for about 3 years, the way that Auburn did, and expect to compete. And then on top of that, you fail at the skill positions like at receiver. So now you don't have the playmakers either. That's a tough ask. It's a tough ask. So it's just going to take Hugh. He's going to need multiple classes. He's got to stack classes because, yes, you got to bring in the talent, and then the talent's got to develop. So.
All right. I listen. I agree with you all. I just don't know. You guys are more optimistic about the fan patience than I am, because I just don't. I don't agree that it should be that way. I don't think it should be that way. I just don't think that most fans deal in realism. We have a lot of people who were on here thinking, hey, man, besides like the Imanis of the world, who is just going to always be on Ultrabook, right? But like there were people who were legitimately convinced that Auburn was going to win 10 games this year, right? And I'm just like, I don't know if that's realistic, right? Like, what's crazy though? But it's just not. Go ahead.
What's crazy is that if the passing game had been at normal levels, this definitely could have been an 8 or 9 win team.
I mean, we should have won 8 games this year with the talent that we have. Should have.
The shock was that the offense somehow statistically did worse at points in long stretches than they did last year. And I think that if this is where, I mean, if you're Peyton Thorne, this is like your last chance to prove you can do it at this level, right? If he expects to play beyond college, right, this is you're in the SEC. So when you're battle tested in this conference, especially with the defenses that you are going to go up against, we've seen the jump happen from year 1 to year 2 in the system. look, man, Stetson Bennett had whole games where he didn't throw more than 12 passes in Georgia's first undefeated championship run. The next season, he threw for 4,500 yards. Like, Cam Payton-Thorne, if he can make that jump at least back to where he was at Michigan State, which is about 26 to 2,800 yards on, close to 400 attempts in the season, 30 attempts a game, I think Auburn is in really good shape. And that's where I like them on the upside of that over 500 number. Right, there'll be like 2 or 3 surprises if they can get the offense to that level. If they continue to struggle to move the ball through the air, it's tough in this league. It is, and you can run into surprises from week to week, or you can run into surprises out of conference like they did with New Mexico State. Just didn't score enough points to beat them, and then the defense has look, they might take a little bit of a step back next year depending on what happens. They'll lose a lot of production on the defensive side of the ball. Make no mistake, man, without that defense, Auburn doesn't make a bowl game.
Yeah.
They don't make a bowl game, guys. So, this is one of those things where you have to go out and I think, just to wrap it up, but like to say to kind of reinforce what you said, Dustin, the depth that they're trying to build is not just about numbers, it's about experience. And that's why I think next year will be another slow year, because you're going to have a lot of guys that will be depth pieces that actually are going to be seeing the field for the very first time next year at the college level. And it's going to take some time for some of them to catch up to the speed of the game. Look, there might be a diamond in the rough, a stud in there that from game one, it's like, damn, what a find from freshman year. We've seen it happen at Auburn plenty of times. Cadillac was dynamic as a freshman, right? We've had guys come through and been dynamic freshmen.
Lou was ready when he was called upon immediately.
Yeah, Michael Dyer had a great freshman season. He broke Bo's freshman rushing record. It can happen, but it's not something that you want to count on. So the better you recruit, the more likely that is to happen, and then you can exceed expectations. But I'm prepared for them to use this year to try to build some depth. And, man, with growing comes growing pains. And so just be prepared for it to feel not so great at times, man, along the way. But it doesn't mean that we're not going to be frustrated when games are lost because of coaching and not talent. And, I think that should always be a thing for fans, right? Hold them accountable when they just didn't get the team prepared, or the guys look like they gave lackluster effort. Or, if from game to game, if guys don't know their assignments, they're not where they're supposed to be. Well, now you're recruiting the guys that you want. So, if we continue to see the same issues, I think that's where you'll see the fan frustration come in. You can take a step forward in development, and it may not show in the win-loss record column just yet. Right? So, but it could look better. Because remember, Auburn's not the only team trying to get better, man. Like, everybody else is trying to get better too.
Yeah. A good point, real quick, that you made, Mike, when you talk about players getting better as it goes on, young guys. Look at Keldrick Falk. I think he's a perfect example. I think that from week 1 to week 12, I think that you can go through and track his progress. He got significantly better as the season went on.
Connor Lou.
Yeah.
He was, man. That kid's a stud.
Yeah, man. I'm telling you, it can. It's the experience is what builds the depth. And until they get on the field, they're not going to know. We're not going to know. So just listen to Hugh. What Hugh Freeze says, and take him at his word. Like, he has not been deceptive in his practices. I think that his messaging certainly is something, feedback he's been given, and I know he's working on it. Could have been better in some areas, but ultimately he's just trying to build a winner, man. And I think that as long as he's open to continuing to learn and grow as a coach, because the game is constantly changing, Auburn will continue to learn and grow along with him.
All right. I hear you guys. All right. I want to get Dylan involved here in the conversation. Appreciate you jumping in here. Our guy, Dylan Lark from the College Loop. We're talking about recruiting class right now. And Dylan, the question I want to pose to you, sir, is where's your confidence level that Auburn is able to pull off the flip here, the one everybody's been talking about, KJ Bolden from Flatulent State University?
I'm weirdly confident because for one thing, I just want to say, Mr. Harrison Tarr, crystal balled KJ Bolden to Auburn I think before he committed to FSU, but that graphic will have aged beautifully if it were to happen. So, and that'd be a win in Tar's column in terms of graphics that we've posted for his opinions. But I mean, Hugh looked very happy in that picture he took with KJ Bolden. That usually means that something went well.
Yeah, he was in the room.
He was in the room. I think KJ Bolden, immediate game changer. I mean, if you go by 24/7, you go from 11 to 5 just from KJ Bolden committing. And Auburn competed with Alabama and Georgia in year 1, only lost by 10 combined points. Should have won one of those, maybe 2 of them. But that loss to New Mexico State doesn't hurt as bad as people think it did to recruits. And it hurt the fans.
No. Yeah. It hurt the fans more than it did recruiting. Like, yeah.
And I mean, KJ Bolden again. I don't know if he'd start year 1, but he definitely would have like a Kyan Lee level aspect to the game. Like, he would get in. And I think he knows that. I think that being in the SEC also helps that, because the ACC just kind of proved to itself that it is a bottom feeder of the 4 conferences.
Which is crazy considering one of those Power Fives Power Fives is not even going to be in existence next year. But
and looking at it like that, I mean, the SEC is going to get a few teams in that 12-team playoff every single year, 3 to 4 at the bare minimum. And seeing that Auburn came in and competed in year 1 under Hugh Freeze after Hugh Freeze put out a dumpster fire, close to a junkyard fire, even. I would say that puts it very high confidence. Maybe I don't want to say bug level of confidence, but definitely high levels of confidence that KJ Bolden would flip from forgotten about state to Auburn University.
I'm looking forward to seeing kind of what happens down the stretch here. I don't know. I mean, does anybody know whether or not he's set? Is he supposed to be an early signing day commit, or is he going all the way to national signing day? Does anybody have any intel?
I'm pretty sure he's December 20th.
Okay, so early signing day. We should have an answer here by the end of this month. It's going to be interesting to see if they're able to pull this off. It will be one of the more amazing coups. 2 back-to-back years they would have flipped an amazing recruit from Florida State. That would be very spicy indeed, and I will look forward to laughing a lot about that.
Are we allowed to feel bad for Florida State?
No.
No.
Let me retract. You're allowed to. I just won't join you.
Okay, all right. Yeah. I mean, like, the college football playoff committee just says you're not a person and we don't respect you. And then all their recruits just start saying, all right, well, I want to go somewhere where they'll recognize my humanity.
Yeah, where me being on an undefeated team actually matters.
Yeah. Did you see the quote of Bobby Bowden that's floating around talking about why he didn't?
I posted it.
Yeah,
I posted it and I put it in our group chat.
Yeah, it was like, man, my heart does go out to those kids. I will say this.
I mean, I feel bad for the players, for the school.
The players,
not at all.
Yeah,
a matter of fact, I welcome any of those players who want to transfer that were a part of that undefeated team, and they want to come be a difference maker on an SEC program that actually has a legitimate shot to get into the college football playoff. Then we welcome you. Right?
Does Jordan Travis have another year?
Hey, Keon, you got another year? You got another year of eligibility over there, Keon Coleman? Come on.
Yeah, I don't know, who has eligibility or who's hitting. Well, there's quite a few that are hitting the transfer portal from down there, so there's some guys to look out for. As far as it'll be interesting to see what kind of decisions that they decide to make in that regard. Let's go to Dustin. Confidence level. KJ Bolden lands as an Auburn Tiger. Where are you feeling today?
Well, I have a whole bunch of FSU tweets bookmarked, so I'm really hoping that KJ gives me my day of redemption.
So you're the bookmark guy. I was wondering who was bookmarking those tweets. I was like, who bookmarked this? It was Dustin.
I keep receipts, bro. I keep receipts, especially from whack-ass Florida State fans. Listen, y'all made this decision, right? Now, look, I think that Florida State deserved to be in the playoff. I
championed it before it happened, yeah.
And it's not even Bama hate. Like,
yeah, it has nothing. Listen, Bama fans, get over yourself. Me feeling like Florida State deserves to be in there has nothing to do with me thinking that Bama didn't. I just think that FSU deserved to be in this. You guys could have had the 4th spot, and then you could have the conversation whether you're more deserving than Texas, blah, blah, blah. That's fine. Florida State should have been in there. Continue. Sorry to cut you off, Dustin.
No, you good, buddy. They should have been in there, and that's I think it's just an overall, like, I think there's just too much emphasis on quarterback. It's why, like, you haven't really heard me putting out who I think should win the Heisman, because I don't care, man. Like, it's like the game is won in the trenches, and then this whole focus is always on quarterback. No, it's important, right? I'm not saying that it's not important, but like, so you lose your quarterback, and now all of a sudden the other aspects you use to continue to win games doesn't matter. Like that whole thing just misses me. But Mike made reference to the quote, y'all had your chance. And they openly said, Bobby Bowden, and there are quotes you can go dig up of their AD, their administration. We don't want the smoke is the gist of it. We don't want to hop in there and deal with what the SEC has to go on with. So excuse me, when I watch us beat LSU and Alabama and Georgia and all these teams, but Tennessee twice in 2004, and we get left out, I kept hearing SEC bias. Where was our SEC bias? No, that's Bama bias, bro. That's Bama bias. You're getting them mixed up, okay? Because we didn't get the benefit of the doubt when we went undefeated in the SEC. So it's hard for me to feel too bad for Florida State when, like, you literally made this bed. You said you wanted the easy road. You said it. And now you get easy road problems. So that's on you. As far as KJ Bolden goes, I don't like them getting the last visit because Norvell is a really good recruiter. And obviously they've done a good job with him because he's committed there. So I'm literally like, I'm going to ride the fence here. I'm going to say 50-50 because KJ was, this is why, like, when Florida State fans tried to dunk on me, I bookmarked the tweets the day that he committed. Cause I was like, well, he's been close to committing to Auburn a couple of times. He publicly said I was this close in Hugh's office to committing to Auburn.
It was on Big Cat weekend.
It was Big Cat. Yeah. So like, I always knew, like, okay, he really likes you. We're one of the two schools. This is one of those that's going to go down to the end. We'll see what happens. I don't like them getting, if it was us getting the last visit, then I would say, yeah, Hugh's going to bring it home. So yeah, I'm kind of on the fence on this one, but I will say this. I think we get one of them. Some of the guys on the fence, so you got like an LJ McCray. I get one of these big fish that they're still out there. I do think we get one of them, and this class does finish around that top 5. We're going to finish strong for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I will say this, Dustin. My source is telling me Auburn is just a little bit better than 50% to land KJ Bolden. So there was, in his camp, there was some feeling about backing off a commitment. You know, like I mean, as a kid, he feels like his word means something to him, right? And now he's reconsidering very late in the process. And so the last in-home visit that you're talking about, right, was kind of like all right, man, like last minute courtesy. Let's hear it, because these guys are coming in hot. And like you said before, he was already very close. It was close. This was close between Auburn and Florida
And we've added big fish since then, Mike.
Yeah.
Big people have jumped on board since then in this class when he was already close before.
Yeah, and they're recruiting each other. So it's you know, they've got their work cut out for them, certainly trying to hold on to him. But right now, I actually do like the Tigers to win this one, man. I think Hugh Freeze has done a great job. You know, he's put all his energy there. So it's nice to see that the place that you put all your energy is actually yielding results.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, listen, but let's go quickly back to a point that you made earlier, Dustin, about the talent gap conversation. Do people allow that conversation to continue next year? Right. Because I don't know. I mean, would we have closed the talent gap? Not closed it completely. I'm not saying equal to, because you're talking about multiple years, but would you have closed the distance a little bit in this offseason on the gap that exists right there? And let me phrase the question a little bit differently, because I asked the question about patience and I'm asking this question about talent gap. And let me be clear. I don't think the expectation for Auburn next season should be championship or bust. Could you potentially work your way into a college football playoff and go compete for a championship? Possibly. I think that that's definitely a possibility considering how good I think the talent is going to be overall on this team next season. But I think everybody gets stuck on this championship standard every season. It's like, man, we're not good enough to compete with this team that won a championship, this team that's perennially winning championships. That is that the only way that we measure success or progress? I shouldn't say success because yes, that's the bar for success. Is that the only way we should measure progress? Is are we going to be able to win a championship with this team? Because that conversation, I think, is what frustrates me about the Peyton Thorne conversation. Everybody's like, we can't win a championship with Peyton Thorne. Is that the expectation next season? Championship?
Yeah.
Anyway,
it shouldn't be.
I asked like 5 questions right there, Dustin. But what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'll just tell you my expectations for next year. Like I said, is you're probably going to be playing a lot of young guys. I think that as this week has gone on, I'm kind of buying more into the because I've heard a lot of other people talking about maybe the game plan is to just bring back Peyton Thorne and see if the continuity and because I feel like it was pretty clear, right? There was a change in philosophy post the Ole Miss game. So maybe the thinking is do what we did post Ole Miss, running more of that up-tempo, the Hugh Freeze offense with Peyton Thorne and give him some better weapons. Will it work better? I'm starting to buy more into that because one of y'all in one of your morning drops was talking about bringing back a quarterback every year. Do you want to get in that cycle, right, where you're constantly trying to plug in a QB every year? So for me, bringing back Peyton Thorne, but you're going to have young pieces around him. You're going to have more weapons. So my expectations would be 7-8 wins. And I just want to see like steady progress. I'm not expecting this big Auburn being up there, ready to compete for SEC championships, big time contenders in the playoffs till about year 4. Because like I said, again, these games are won in the trenches in this league. And this year, or next year, you're still not going to be where the Georgias and the Alabamas are when it comes to the way they've recruited the past 5-6 years in the trenches. It's just going to take a lot of time to get on that level. I mean, we have been historically bad in the way that we've recruited in those 2 positions, the offensive and defensive line. It's going to take a lot of time to make up for the neglect that these previous coaching staffs done. So my expectations are just for Hugh to do what he does and continue to bring in talent. And I would like to see some of the things cleaned up next year, right? Like the wins like New Mexico State, like the gimmies, let's get those. But I'm on more of like a 3 to 4 year plan because I know that it's just going to take a whole lot of time. Like, and Mike said that we got to start believing Hugh. I didn't believe him all summer that the wide receivers were what he was telling us. I kept thinking, no, there's some guys in there that can make it happen. And then I watched all 12 games and I was like, not on the outside, there's not.
Right. I'll say, I just want to add this point to what you're saying, Dustin. The attitude internally absolutely is, if we put better pieces around Peyton, we can evaluate who he truly is as a quarterback, because they felt like it was so bad on the other end, you could not properly evaluate Peyton Thorne. So they're not saying he's good, but they're saying, hey, man, maybe his situation was a little harder to evaluate, but we can absolutely evaluate this other piece. Here's the thing when you have young guys come into the program, though. He has to make them better as the experienced guy, not the other way around.
100%.
Right. Now, hear me out. When it sounded like we were beat down on him, any guy who's got 3 years starting, and then a kid gets in the game and you throw a crazy ball and it gets to him and he doesn't make the catch, and then people say, he's got to catch that. That shit drives me back. It drives me insane. What? No. The most experienced guy is supposed to make the play. If it were a young quarterback and a third-year wide receiver, I would say, yes, he has to make that play for his quarterback. That's what you do. You're the experienced guy.
Yeah.
So when you bring a guy in with this much Power 5 starting experience, yeah, like, listen, I fully am expecting him to take a jump in performance from last year to this year as a 4th-year starter at this level. Guys, nobody gets 4 years to start anymore. This is fairly anomalous. Because you know why?
Well, in the era of the transfer portal, they absolutely do. You just go to another school and con them and they let you start.
I'm
Oh boy, that just left Florida Atlantic that came from
Yeah.
Nebraska that we entertained. Like he's on his 7th year now. Like goodness
Casey
gracious.
Thompson.
Yeah.
That's how it works now. It's like, you start a couple of years at one place and then you go somewhere else and you convince them it was their fault over at the other place, and then you graduate, you go somewhere else and you convince them it's the last two teams' fault.
Get your masters.
You know why? Because when you're good, right? When you're good, barring extenuating circumstances, most of the guys who are good, they don't get 3-4 years to get it together because teams have moved on from you by that time. They're just why? Because a lot of coaches, unless you're a first-year head coach, they don't have 3 or 4 years to get it together. So they got to get to the guy who's going to get it done. And that's why I'm like, listen, it is an absolute blessing to be able to start 4 years at a Power 5 school at this level. Not a lot of dudes get that chance. More talented guys have not even gotten the shot. So if you're Peyton Thorne, you got to pull it together this year, man.
Yeah.
For yourself, for your family, and for your teammates. And lastly, for us, the fans. Yeah. So, that's all I'm going to say. It is an absolute blessing to be able to get 4 chances to do it at this level, man. And he should be thanking God that Hugh Freeze has the grace to say, let's give it another shot and let's try to put some talent around him.
So I mean I'm going to let Dylan jump in here because this is the question I have, right, Dylan? With all of the talent that Auburn is putting together around Peyton Thorne, you being the resident Robbie Ashford Homer apologist fan club member, how much leash do you think Peyton Thorne should have when the talent level is clearly supposed to be elevated around him?
With the transfer portal, like going into this offseason type?
No, going into the season.
Going into the season.
Yeah, I'm saying do you think is it spring? Like, does he need to clearly be the leader in the clubhouse during the spring?
It should be close, yeah.
Is it the fall, right? Or does he get a couple of games into the season? Because listen, he clearly was slow out of the starting blocks when he got here last fall, right? Because literally every report, there's a lot of people, let me say this, that owe Mike G a big apology for his reports about Holden Gerner being the best guy in camp last fall. And people were trying to say that he was just trying to crap on Thorne. No, you guys owe him an apology. It was factual. He was ahead of him, and he does have the better arm. Coach Freeze has said he had the better arm, talked about his upside. You guys owe him an apology. But does he get another spring/fall of it's not looking good in practice, or he's not looking to be the best in practice, and he gets to go out there game one? What do you think the situation is going to be around it?
I think he has absolutely no leash whatsoever. Not no leash. I think he has a very tight leash because Hugh Freeze doesn't want to be put in that same situation he was last offseason where he wasn't happy with his quarterback play, so he had to go get whatever was left. Whenever you're got the broom and dustpan out and you're sweeping and you can't get that last little bit of dirt and you just kind of get stuck with that. That's what Hugh Freeze was recruiting a quarterback in the transfer portal after spring. He doesn't want that again. He has the pick of the litter right now with, Grayson McCall, Cam Ward, and a few other those guys. And I don't know why you would subject yourself to getting a guy who will never be anything more than above average in some aspects of his game. Going into this offseason, I'm expecting 2 quarterbacks to enter the portal. One being my boy, Robbie Ashford. I will be buying whatever jersey he goes to next. So it'll fit right there next to it. And Holden Gerner, because I don't think he wants to sit the bench for another year. I think that Peyton Thorne's going to have to go into this offseason into battling it out with whatever transfer portal quarterback comes in, because I don't think that the talent gap at the wide receiver room, I don't think it was that bad. I just think that they weren't prepared because you went and got a couple of mid-major guys. You got the Jair Shorter who, averaged 10 yards a catch last season. Granted, he only had 1 catch. And you had Shane Hooks, who sometimes he was in it, sometimes he wasn't. It was a great catch. The talent was there, but Peyton Thorne did nothing to enhance the talent that was given to him. Nothing about the passing game was helped by Peyton Thorne's ability to pass the ball. I think if Hugh Freeze wants to go into the season with not a like crazy expectation, but a raised expectation of like 8 or 9 wins, I think you don't go into the season starting Peyton Thorne. I think you try to get your Grayson McCalls. I think you try to get your Cam Wards. I think you try to go crazy for one of these transfer portal quarterbacks who are established X factor level quarterbacks that Peyton Thorne was never at Michigan State.
Oh, Cam Moore doesn't have an SEC team on his list, and that tells me a lot about where his head's at.
Yeah. Well, if you're running out of eligibility, you're not running to the fire. You like he's already in the pack. Right? Like, where are you going to throw for more yards in the pack?
Yeah,
dude, I'm pretty sure all 4 of us can go throw for at least 1,500 yards in the pack right now.
The Big 12 is really is the only other place that you can land where defense is optional out here.
Yeah, for sure.
College football. So, and you're really only going to see like 2 or 3 good defenses in the Big 10 or whatever they're going to call their new conference.
The Pac-12 had some pretty good defenses last year, I will say. UCLA, Utah.
Yeah, like 3 of their whatever teams had good defenses. Oregon, Washington, and every now and then Utah. There you go. There's your good defenses right there. All right, listen, we got more of this conversation because I love talking about all of this speculation stuff. But before we get into that, we've got to give away a mug. So if you haven't already, hashtag needs to be in there because y'all know I'm doing the drawing and I ain't got time to be waiting on y'all to figure out whether or not you want to join this conversation and get this thing going. 50 people out of the 300 and something put in the hashtag. Somebody's got to win this mug. Maybe some of you already have the mug, and that's wonderful. But the winner today is Bird Eye War Damn Eagle 5. Go ahead and let us know if you're here, Bird Eye, and we will make sure we get that mug out to you. You got to be present in the chat to win. Appreciate everybody for jumping in here with us. We're talking about recruiting tonight and the possibility of a flip of KJ Bolden. Dustin brought up the other point that I wanted to get. If we don't get KJ Bolden, who are the other big names that you're saying to yourself, man, it's really a possibility? I think confidence on the Ryan Williams thing is a little, it's waned over the last couple of days. Does anybody feel like the Freeze 5 actually makes it to campus here?
Oh man, it's interesting. I think people were letting their hope shine through, right? With the Ryan Williams thing. I mean, that was ultimate bug type shit, guys. Like he's going to reclassify and then change to Auburn with an extra middle finger to Alabama. Would have been amazing. But yeah, I think that was a little bit of extra bug there. I had not, like, I know there was a lot of talk around it, but, you know, the people I knew that weren't able to give me anything solid that said it was going to be positive for Auburn. I'm not saying that it won't be, but yeah.
Yeah, the way that he talks, he says he talks like Walker White and Perry Thompson talk about us when he talks about Bama. He says we and us with Bama. When he refers to Auburn, he says they. It's kind of a small tell there, man. If a guy is that close to flipping, he would. Ryan talks like a guy that's pretty solid on the Bama. And then Blake Robinson said those type of QBs cost money. I couldn't disagree more with Dustin. Spend the money on both lines of scrimmage and wide receivers. Blake, that's what I was saying, buddy. I agree with you. That's what I was saying. I would rather us build up the resources around Peyton Thorne because I don't see a guy out there in the portal that's an obvious slam dunk. And like you said, Blake, those guys cost money. So that's not what I said, brother.
Well, let's go here to the chat and see what people are saying tonight. Got a lot of great conversation, a lot of it centering around some stuff that we don't really want to get into, but I do want to shout out Drake Barefoot for gifting 10 memberships to folks out there. We appreciate Drake as always for coming through, dropping that. Somebody has a free month of the War Report membership courtesy of Drake. Super chat here from Antonio Smith. It says, I agree, but the powers that be are going to give him 4 years. If next year ends like this year, you know how impatient they get, especially if Bama wins the national championship. So
it's not going to
going to get 4 years if if we end up 6-6 again and we drop a game to a New Mexico State and Bama wins a national championship, is that the convergence of events that doesn't get Hugh Freeze to 4 years?
Well, his contract is set up for them to be out scotch-free after year 3 anyway. I mean, so I think he's got 3 years, and then it's just got to be clearly moving forward in year 3. So, like, if you can't get to 8-9 wins by year 3, then it's going to be tough, especially in a new SEC where you've got 2 more juggernauts coming into the conference.
What you got, Dustin?
There is a world where I've seen Brian Harson's name floating around for the Nevada job. If Brian Harsin gets the Nevada job, and then what happened with Nevada, what happened with New Mexico State, then Hugh Freeze's ass will be out of here.
Wait a minute. He was getting floated around for New Mexico job, which
right. That's what I'm saying. And if New Mexico comes into Jordan Hare with Brian Harsin, I'm saying that in that world, that accelerates Hugh Freeze's timeline.
Yeah, I think New Mexico ended up hiring somebody else already.
Did they?
If I'm not mistaken.
Bronco Mendenhall.
Bronco Mendenhall. That's right.
Oh, Bronco Mendenhall.
Yeah, he got the New Mexico job.
Why is that name so familiar?
He used to coach Boise State. Years. Was he Boise State?
He played at Boise State. I don't think he coached there. I don't remember where but he's had a couple of coaching stops. But I think he was at Virginia, if I'm not mistaken, at one point in time.
It might be at Virginia. Yeah, that's where I remember him from.
Okay.
Yeah, so, but I think he played at Boise. But yeah, so I think there is a universe where he could have some sort of issues and be out by year 4. But it's gonna there's a lot that's got to happen to make that be a thing. Royce Butler says D-line recruiting hasn't been historically bad. There just has been a mass exodus of kids before they were ready to see the fields. I don't know. I mean, like, if you think about the exodus of kids that have left the program outside of Lee Hunter going to UCF last year, how many of those guys that left before they had a chance to see the field really did anything elsewhere? I would say, and this is where I always caution people about you looking at recruiting rankings. Just because a kid was highly recruited and people were excited about him doesn't mean that they were any good, right? And we saw some people who had high star rankings. Calvin Ashley out there on the offensive line, and
Byron Cowart.
Byron Cowart, Byron Cowart wasn't a bad football player. He wasn't the most highly rated defensive player in the country. Good though, right? And so. Yeah, we landed the best defensive recruit in the country that year, but did he pan out to be that guy? No. Even when he went to Maryland, he made it to the NFL. He was a rotational guy, right? We had what's the kid's name? Jeffrey Emba, right? He was the #1 defensive line recruit out of JUCO. He barely saw the field here or at Purdue.
He had 8 tackles.
We get sometimes enamored with this stuff, and it's like, man, they didn't get a chance to see the field. Well, maybe they weren't that good. It's possible that if you're watching guy, and this is a lesson that I won't say I am learning more and more, through the Bo Nix years, right? Of like, gosh, is there nobody better on the bench? The answer to that question was no. There was nobody better on the bench. That's why Bo was starting, because the other guys weren't as good. Like, let's be clear. They may have, with more game opportunities, gotten better over time. The guy who was best to start day 1 was Bo Nix. And we saw the other guys get opportunities to start, and they looked worse than Bo Nix in their first snaps than he looked in his first. So, yes, he was the best option out there. So sometimes, the coaches actually get this right. Sometimes they get it miserably wrong, right? We have seen some guys leave here, and they have not played well. And so but if we're being honest, the coaches have gotten it right more than they've gotten it wrong. The misses have been pretty astronomical, though, right? Like, when you miss, sometimes it's like, whoa, y'all really missed this one, bro. Like, how did we let this kid get away? And so sometimes you got to kind of understand that that's a thing. But to the point about the defensive line, we've seen some guys leave, but those guys didn't light the world on fire after they left Auburn, man. Like, Auburn wasn't the problem there. It was that young man. So
I think we're thin. If to your point, Ike, like, I know you're talking about a guy like Sledge, right? If you're not cracking, I started talking about it earlier in the week. when you're this thin at defensive line like we have been, if you're not cracking the rotation, we got to kind of ask why. And it starts with recruiting. We don't have the guys right now, especially up front.
Yeah. I haven't seen. Did anybody see Bird Eye jump in here? I didn't see nobody say congratulations to him. I'm going to keep talking here, but I want to make sure I'm not missing it while I'm doing all of this, scrolling through comments. Let's get some more comments in here. Brad Browning says, I said it last night on Dustin's show. Coach Hugh Freeze missed out on Matt Luke. Could have gotten rid of Montgomery, got Luke, and took over play calling. Could have instantly improved the O. So I don't know if you've already addressed this, the missing out on Matt Luke.
Mm-hmm.
Did he miss out on Matt Luke, or did Matt, like, I don't know that Matt Luke wanted to be at Auburn. So like, that's not missing out on somebody who didn't want. It's not like he wanted to be here and then they just couldn't come to it. Like, I don't know. Did he miss out on Matt Luke?
I'm not sure. The point I made on this last night was I'm not sure which way we do go with Montgomery, but I would like whatever we do with OC. I just want Hugh Freeze to be in charge. So whoever that they put and give him the title offensive coordinator, I really don't care. I want the OC to be Hugh Freeze. So
I feel that. Listen, Hugh Freeze is one of the better play callers that is in college football still, right? Like, he might not be in the top 10 like he was, 7-8 years ago. He's in the top 25 of play callers out there in college football, as far as I'm concerned. So
for sure.
Your offense makes things go. Let's see that offense go out there and make it go, right? Whether you have some combination, I don't care what the play design and all that kind of stuff, who's calling the plays. As I've said this many times, play calling is more art than it is science. And some people know how to, they when they are on the canvas, it looks very different, like a very different piece of artwork. And Coach Hugh Freeze, I think, just kind of has that, know when to call the certain plays at the right time, how to set people up from play 1 to play 25 of the game, right? Like, I went back and I looked at the Georgia film, and I looked at, because I was putting together, if you guys didn't see on the Instagram, we put out top 5 plays from the offense last season. I looked at Peyton Thorne run, and I actually went back and watched the plays leading up to that. And I was like, oh, that was available like from play 2 of the game when they handed the ball off to Jarquez. Somebody was like, they're not playing Peyton on the keep. Like literally nobody. If go back and watch we'll do a watch the film. This is a promise I have to you guys, because surprise for the members, I actually got the all 22 from the Georgia game. So we are going to do a watch the film on Georgia with all 22. If you're not a member, be a member soon, because we're going to go look at that. But from play number 2, I was like, oh, it's there. They just got to call it. And when they did call it, you can see nobody on Georgia's defense was committed to stopping the QB run. They were all focused on Jarquez Hunter. So when he pulled, there's nobody out there. He had literally, they just basically opened up a highway and was like, please drive a truck right down this lane right here, because nobody's going to be there to stop it. And they took advantage of it for 61 yards. But that's what play calling is. It's not every drive is successful. It's me understanding, oh, this is how they're attacking us. I got a counter for that. And you start to see those counters work later in the game. That's where you see successful defensive play callers changing their tendencies and being like, okay, that's art. You just kind of have to get that. And you have to be able to do that stuff on the fly. And some people are savants at it, and some people are absolutely Mike Bobo. Damian Smith jumps in and says, fans or boosters? Fans may be more merciful than the boosters will be. That's interesting. What do you guys feel like that is? Who's going to have more mercy here, the boosters or the fans?
The boosters in this case, because this is their guy.
Yeah.
This is their guy. They put their money behind him. So this is their guy. They're going to be patient with him.
I see him in here. Bird Eye War Damn Eagle says, thanks, my guy. He is here, so you need to be doing the necessary. Make sure you go ahead and send us your information, business at the War Report, and we can get your mug over into you via the mail. Again, business at the War Report, we need your physical address to make sure that we can get that mug over there to you. Appreciate you for being a watcher, and then, congratulations on getting your mug. Couple more comments in here. Let's see. We've got James Barnett, who says Auburn will finish up a top 5. Remember, a few months ago, Trevon Reed said top 5. I'm rolling with him. Speaking of a conversation Mike G had with him at
Big Cat.
Big Cat weekend, Mike, pulled Trevon to the side and he was like, hey, man, is Auburn going to be able to get into where we going to finish up? He said top 5 then. And this is when Auburn was outside the top 25, I think, at the time. I mean, we weren't even anywhere close.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, nah, we're going to finish top 5, bro. Like, we was like maybe barely in top 25, something like that. Not close to it. He said top 5 then. It's looking like Trevon was prophetic here.
You only need what? You only need a KJ Bolden or an LJ McRae.
KJ Bolden will put you dangerously close to the top 5. Yeah.
Matt, at 20, if you go by 24/7, KJ puts you right at 5.
Yeah.
And if you get KJ and LJ, you jump Bama and move to 4.
Yeah.
And then if you get, I did all the math on it. I was booging heavy for recruiting. If you get Sterling Dixon,
every recruit that ever was created in the 20 class.
If you get all the rumor mill players, you get number 1 because it'd be LJ, KJ, Sterling Dixon, and then I did the math for a reclassified, flipped Ryan Williams would also put you at the number 1 class. That's an out of reach level of thing though, because
KJ, LJ, MJ, every J, just all the J's. Bring them in, baby. Let's do it. KP says Auburn fans are never patient. It depends on which. So here's the thing. Here's the thing I want to say too, man. Stop. There are corners of the internet where people huddle and they spew their toxicity on one another. And you guys have to pull your brain out of that fog every now and then and see that there's a fan base beyond the very loud, toxic people to realize the fan base is actually a lot broader. And it feels like a lot because it's like 30 people and they're really loud and they talk a lot. And if you only listen to those 30 people who are really loud and talk a lot, then you'll feel like Auburn is in this very limited sphere.
Oh man, no kidding, right? The vocal minority, and then people think that represents the entirety of the fan base.
Yeah,
and it's really frustrating. It is. So we hear the negative voices a lot louder than the positive ones sometimes when it comes to, and I'm talking about the non-constructive negative ones. It's tough.
Yeah.
It does come down to the fact that you are watching, Alabama, Georgia, and LSU all be at the top of the sport. And then you're trying not to watch Ole Miss pass you by, which I don't think that's going to happen.
I got fried for saying that game was a toss-up, Dylan. Everyone was like, you think we're going to lose to Ole Miss? You trying to marry a hottie-toddy? I got accused of everything under the sun. And he lost. I was like, I told y'all.
Just not to say that Auburn fans can't be patient. It's just hard watching as a fan to watch Alabama continuously be at the top of the sport. Georgia get there and stay there. LSU is consistently always up there. Ole Miss is at the same tier as Auburn is right now, and just watching Auburn just kind of sit in stagnant water for, I want to say, at least since 2017. That's where that probably comes from. And the vocal minority are just people who are just insane. You can be impatient without being absolutely annoying. You can be like, well, I would love it if Auburn just did this. What if we just won a natty? What if we just beat Bama? What if we just did this?
What if we just won a natty, casually?
You can say that without being without harassing people on Twitter.
Yeah.
I book with my friends all the time.
Hey, listen, I've championed the book chair. I don't care if people feel bad or feel a way about me being open with my fandom. I don't care. Whatever. Auburn's going to win every game next year until I watch them play, and I'm like, not really. But listen. Right now, we're undefeated for the 2024 season, so let's keep it that way for as long as we possibly can.
Yeah.
But again, there are definitely people who there are people who book way too hard, and Auburn's amazing and they can do no wrong. But a lot of those same people, when Auburn does something, go absolutely to the other end. They go into a very dark place very quickly, and every player is a bum, and the coach needs to be fired, and we need to get rid of the AD and start all the way over. And I'm never wearing orange and blue again. I'm selling all of my season tickets and every bit. It just goes into this real weird space where it's like, whoa, slow down. It's okay. You're allowed to lose a football game. You're allowed to lose a basketball game. Your baseball team doesn't have to go to the College World Series every year. It's okay. None of these coaches are terrible people who don't have the best interests of players at heart. Like it gets into this very weird and toxic space where everybody has to throw the most negative thing they can, and they say it with their chest so loudly and proudly, like they actually know these coaches and players. And it's like, y'all don't even know what you're talking about. Like, again, I mean, like the narratives that persist around some of these players are crazy. And I just don't even understand it. Barondo Treywick says, do you all think we have any coaching changes, offensive coordinator, or maybe Hugh taking over play calling? Dustin's already quasi addressed this as far as he thinks there should be a change, at least in play calling. Anybody else have thoughts on coaching changes coming up?
Yeah, Hugh Freeze is responsible regardless. So make the right decision.
If I had my pick of the litter, looking at across the board, if we were to change at coordinator, specifically the offensive coordinator, I wouldn't mind Hugh going fishing in his old stomping grounds of Liberty and getting Willie Korn,
Willie Korn has been thrown around quite a bit.
Who almost ran for 4,000 yards last year for Liberty. I wouldn't mind having a guy who can specialize in the run game while Hugh Freeze does the RPO. Basically have two OCs, but one of your OCs is the HC kind of thing. And I've also people saying promote Caddy to offensive coordinator as well, which.
What about Ken Austin? What do you think about Ken Austin, Dylan?
RIP pass game, but Caddy's offensive coordinator.
Listen, if he's coordinator in title, but Hugh Freeze is calling plays, and I don't really care. But I mean, what's the point of that? What's the point of unless you just are worried that Caddy is going to leave, and you need to get another running back coach in here to help you? Like, I don't understand the purpose of moving him from the running back coach spot unless you just want to get him more money so he doesn't leave. Like, I'm just trying to understand that philosophy.
I wouldn't mind Ken Austin. I'd be kind of the same thing as just promoting Caddy. You're just kind of keeping around a guy who kind of has the same. Well, Ken Austin would be having the same kind of scheme as Hugh Freeze and kind of meshing well, probably meshing better because he's worked with Hugh Freeze longer. So chemistry-wise, that probably would work out best. But if I wanted to get someone who could balance out the run game a lot, have Hugh Freeze be more of the passing game coordinator and having someone else step in as the run game coordinator, and then kind of balancing that out. That way your offense isn't as predictable because you don't know who's calling plays at any given time, because you can run the same formations and have the same plays or have different plays for those formations. Because you can run a play action out of the shotgun, but you can also just hit them up with a halfback dive out of nowhere and then have your offense looking awesome.
Indeed. Jed jumps in and says, Ole Miss bowl game, the closest they'll get to ATL. Ooh. I mean, listen,
historically, yes,
they no longer can capture an SEC. This is something that I predicted, and I told Ole Miss fans a long time ago they would never win a divisional title. And lo and behold, the SEC West doesn't exist anymore, so they can't do that. And so will they ever make it to Atlanta? That's a different story. I don't know the answer to that, but SEC West title, not something that you guys can hang the banner for. Get over it. It is what it is. All right.
Tulane has one more SEC titles than Ole Miss has.
Big facts. Sewanee has more SEC titles than Ole Miss. Sewanee.
All right, y'all. We are going to get out of here. We appreciate you jumping in here with us. Before we get out of here, Mike G, talk to the people about things that they need to be doing to be a part of the greatest group in the world.
Guys, become a patron. This is a great way to support our content. We got lots of great stuff coming for you guys this off season. So bowl game is coming. Ike and I will be in Nashville covering the bowl game, bringing you guys a lot of coverage. You can help support that work by becoming a patron. You can also give the gift of the war part by gifting a membership. Hit that gifted membership button. YouTube will hand this out to one deserving person or 20 deserving persons. You guys have done such a great job hitting that gifted membership button. It's a great way to help us grow our content. Definitely want to thank title sponsor auburnsports.com for sponsoring this segment, auburnsports.com for all your recruiting needs. Also, they got a great community over there if you want to continue these conversations in mass. They're doing good things over there. Definitely want to say congratulations to our giveaway winner, as well as thank show sponsor MANSCAPED. Visit manscaped.com to get 20% off that order. We love MANSCAPED. They're a great sponsor of the War Report. Last but not least, guys, check out the War Report Podcast Network, the Auburn Express, Uptempo, College Loop. Just a sec. Uptempo and College Loop are represented here today by Dustin and Dylan. Those guys are doing great work, bringing you guys a variety of content in audio-only format. Please go check them out. Subscribe, download, listen on your way to work, in the shower, while you're taking a poop. Listen, this is great content for everything that you're doing. So we love these guys for joining our network. We appreciate all the hard work they're putting in.
Yeah. Before we get out of here, Dylan, you were the last in. I will give you the first intro or exodus, whatever, of yourself. Tell the people how they can check out the work that you're doing for Auburn Sports.
Yeah, you can go check me out on Twitter or X, whatever you're wanting to call it these days, at Yaboy the Tank, at YABOY the Tank, to catch all of my hot takes and all of my pushing of buttons I like to do with other fan bases around college football and college basketball as well. You can also catch me on the College Loop. Episode comes out tomorrow at 8:30 in the morning. So get subscribed there at the College Loop at, I don't think I need to spell it, the College Loop, every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday live streams as well.
Indeed. Dustin, talk to the people.
Yes, sir. My Twitter handle's right there. You can follow me. We got a whole bunch of recruiting stuff coming out. This is my favorite time of year, man. Like recruiting signing days right here. And now we got basketball tipping off. I love it. So follow us over at the Uptempo Podcast. We're knocking on the door of 1,500 subs. If you're not a part of it, man, come join. We'd love for you to come join the family, bro. We have a good time. It's me and my boy Blake. And yeah, bro, let's go ahead and watch this Central Phoenix game. We got two studs. We got two studs. I had some people asking me in the comments. I saw, is there any way they live in Florida? They were asking if I found any way. No, there's nothing. Like, it's on PBS instead of Alabama. If you're living in Florida, you're going to have to go online and watch it. I was doing that before we started recording. So about to go check that out, man. Two ballers that we got on the way. And appreciate you, Ike, man. It's been fun, bro. War Damn Eagle.
Absolutely. Everybody knows what they need to do before they get out of here. Share the video with somebody else. They can rewatch it later. Go ahead and give us a thumbs up on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We're at the War Report on Twitter and Instagram. TW Report on TikTok. Until we get back to you guys on Friday with another morning drop, we are out of here, and we appreciate you guys jumping in with us. Until the next time, and as always, War Eagle.
Hey.